All right, Merry Christmas and welcome to another episode of the Warm Up. There's Jeff Power for you. I'm Ward Pasold. We are talking recap time. We are recapping the high school football season and mainly just the state championship games because we had a busy Saturday last week, and it's going to be the main set of our show this coming Saturday. We're going to kind of recap our three high school football championship teams that were, or at least championship games that had Houston teams in them. It was a pretty long Saturday, Jeff, for us Houston fans that wanted to watch our teams, right, buddy?
Oh, that's right. But I tell you what, that environment for that North Shore Duncanville game, just under 40,000 fans, 6A Division I, the sixth time in 8 years these two playing against each other. And, North Shore, they were more physical, didn't you think, Ward?
Very physical game. Usually a lot of times people don't really care much for the 0-0 games and stuff like that. But you could see that this wasn't just two inept offenses. It was two terrific defenses. And we'll start talking about that thing as we get started here with the lineup. All right, Jeff, like we were saying, North Shore and Duncanville 6 times out of the last 8 years going into the game, North Shore had a 3-2 advantage. And boy, you talk about a defensive stalemate. Finally, somebody punched through in the second half, and it was a race to that finish line.
Yeah, North Shore winning it 10-7. The Mustangs have a 4-2 advantage over Duncanville in the state title games. They recorded the only touchdown when senior quarterback Caleb Maryland connected with Jalen Bacard. It was a 44-yard pass play. That was a beauty. Bacard was the offensive MVP, of course. 4 catches, 79 yards, his 13th TD of the season. And Maryland finishing off the year with 35 touchdown passes. And he is committed to Utah State, by the way. North Shore's defense, as you mentioned, was sensational. Tony Guillory made a huge play, a red zone pick in the first quarter. Then, of course, Duncanville drove inside the North Shore 30-yard line, down 10-7. They got right down there by the goal line with under a minute left, but the Mustangs got the stop they needed, and that pretty much ended the game. Other standout players for North Shore, Lionel Hunter, Mikhail White, Tommy Anderson, Marvin Bayo, and Amari Demerson all contributed big plays for the Mustangs. And, when Duncanville drove inside the 30, were you kind of thinking, oh my gosh, here we go again? I mean, these two teams are always playing tough, close games.
It looked like it for sure. And then just seeing that they didn't probably have the field goal kicker that North Shore did, and they were going to have to go for the score. It gives you a different kind of defensive outlook, right? You got to stop them 4 times instead of just 3 times.
Right. And Zaquan Nunn, by the way, he had 2 second-half sacks, some really big ones there late. And, of course, the Mustangs, they've been great defensively all year. They've held 8 opponents to 7 points or less this year. And, of course, this was the lowest point total in the 6 games played between these two teams. I believe the previous 5 matchups averaged around 57 total points per game. So, hey, congrats to Willie Gaston. Won his first state championship since taking over as head coach of the Mustangs in 2023. That's North Shore's first title since 2021. And I didn't realize this, but Gaston played for the Baltimore Ravens. He was a cornerback back in the day and has a career record of 43-4. But I'm sure he'll tell you this was the biggest win of his life.
That meant the more to him, I believe. And you were talking about that great defensive plays. Starting off the season, they had Chase Calicut as their D1 cornerback going to Georgia, and he ended up getting himself into trouble and never played at all. And they took that first loss. They took another loss. And like we talked about a lot, they were put off in the shadows, but they came out of the shadows in a big way Saturday afternoon and got Coach Gaston that number 1, that first title for him as the head coach. Let's talk about the other 6A team. We were a little worried that, much like Summer Creek 2 years ago, when it's the first time you're on that big stage, and it's tough when you have that last game too. Everybody, whether you want to or not, everybody's kind of leading up to that game, and they want to see it. We wanted to see whether CE King go win in the game like, hey, we don't know any better. We're just going to go out there and handle or just play it like a regular game, or if the stage was going to get too big and that stage got really big, really fast, and it didn't kind of work out for them.
Yeah, it really did. 6A Division II title game. DeSoto quarterback Legend Howell. He had a legendary game for DeSoto, 280 yards, while his big 5-star USC recruit Ethan Booby Feaster had 167 yards and 2 touchdowns on 10 catches. And you and I have seen Booby a couple of times, man. He's a big-time player in big games, isn't he?
He is, for sure. And they showcased him big time.
They did.
Panthers defense was having trouble stopping teams.
Both sides of the ball. Yeah, both sides. And, of course, that's the Eagles' 4th title under third under Claude Mathis. Of course, the Panthers found themselves down 27-0 in the second quarter when they kind of found their offense. Timothy Potts connected with Darnell Bradley from 6 yards out for a touchdown to make it 27-7. Then it got a little closer when Deion Sims found the end zone on a 27-yard run. King kind of had
knocked me over on that one, Jeff. Well, Jeffy almost knocked me over on that one. Came right at me. I was like, take it easy. I gave you a bobblehead. You don't have to lay me out like this.
We got the highlights of it, of course. You were right there. But, I felt like they had a chance, but that pick 6 deep in the red zone was returned by Demarion Ross, 94 yards. Man, that was a killer. And, of course, King lost 55-27. I do think it was a great season for the Panthers. The school opened in 1955. This is the furthest they've ever been, the best season they've ever had. And as a reminder, all 4 of these teams in Class 6A were all from the same 2 districts, DeSoto and Duncanville from 11, North Shore and King from 23. So realignment's coming at a good time. More on that in just a moment.
Exactly. And, credit to King, they did get to show off their speed. Which is what everybody was talking about. Huge kickoff return for Dylan Mitchell. Boy, he just ran all over the field on that one. So everybody got to see what got him there, but they also got to see what DeSoto had that got them there, and they kind of overpowered them. How about 5A Division II? We had a rematch. Richmond Randle was going up against South Oak Cliff. South Oak Cliff all week long said we got to stop Landon Williams-Callis, make Tyler Skrabanek beat us. They stopped him, and Tyler couldn't do it.
That's right. South Oak Cliff avenged last season's loss to Randle, 35-19, 5A Division II. And just like last year, Sock running back Mikhail Trotter had a huge game against Randle. Trotter recorded 143 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns on 11 carries. It was the 5th straight title game appearance for Sock. Now, of course, Trotter had a pair of long TD runs, 30 and 40 yards. The key was that 44-yard touchdown run on the first play of the second half. That made it 35-10, and it just kind of felt like that was pretty much it. The Bears' 3rd state title in 5 years, the other coming in 2021 and 22. Baylor commit Jamarian Phillips had 13 tackles and a pick to lead the Bears defense. Torn Teague, as we kind of talked about before the game, that wild card, he showed up, man, pair of touchdowns. And as for Landon Williams-Callis, as you mentioned, I mean, that 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown was beautiful. Kind of like the King game, you saw spurts of what made this team great all year. And let's not forget, Williams-Callis did have 121 yards for the game, but for the most part, you just felt like he was held in check by that Sock defense. Landon is only a junior, though, so he will return for next season. And I think he finished the year with 3,491 yards and 59 TDs. But that did end Randle's 31-game winning streak. That was tough. But I think overall, Houston fans got to feel pretty good about what North Shore did. The fact that, Randle was making it competitive late was good. And King, I think this being their first trip, they were probably a little bright-eyed. They're going to learn from it. And who knows what, we'll have come next year. But I think overall we had close to 200,000 fans there. I heard it was about a 20% increase over 2022. So some good numbers, good excitement. And I know that the star of the show, obviously, for all this, I think was the head coach, Willie Gaston of the Houston area, as far as the Stars go. And we heard from him in our media day post-game commentary.
The Houston area Chevy dealers. Visit your nearest Chevy dealer to test drive our award-winning products. Serving up the best treats and eats in Texas. Stop by DQ and treat yourself before and after the game.
I thought we settled in the whole entire game. We came here with a game plan and we executed. We normally super aggressive and go for a lot on 4th downs. We changed that up knowing that, hey, we was going to play field position battle and try to make them go the length of the field. When it comes down to it, this is hard to do. When you watch these kids and the adversity they went through this year, to watch them band together and start playing their best football right there in the playoffs, again, it's a total team effort, and these guys just banded together. It's a true brotherhood.
just make the quarterback uncomfortable. We don't want him to be comfortable in that pocket. We want to close as fast as possible, be dominant. We're just communicating, swapping around. We did a lot of communication between us, and I think we did a really good job of keeping him uncomfortable the whole night.
Winning the state championship after all the stuff that we've had to overcome is just amazing. It feels really good.
The Houston area Chevy dealers. Visit your nearest Chevy dealer to test drive our award-winning products. Parker University. Check out our bachelor's degree in strength and human performance today.
The warm-up is brought to you by Kinder's Texas Bowl. The Big 12 and SEC face off at NRG Stadium on December 27th. Join the waitlist for tickets at kinderstexasbowl.com.
All right, well, Jeff, that was a happy coach, and he had every right to be happy, too. I mean, that was an impressive win for North Shore. They just keep stacking in them titles, putting up trophies all over their trophy case. That's wonderful stuff. Also, last week and the week before, we got the numbers. The numbers came in from all our schools. We got the cutoff numbers for how UIL realignment's going to look come February, what teams are going to go up and what's going to go down. Let's talk a little bit about that in the agenda. All right, it's always interesting. See, the deal with 6A other than 5A and 4A is that 6A, everybody gets put into 6A, and then we figure out Division I, Division II later on as we get closer to playoffs. But with the numbers going on, before I let you talk a little bit about some things, if the Summer Creeks, Sea Kings, North Shore, and Tascasity still get put in the same district, this year Summer Creek's numbers are going to be higher than Atascocita. So when we get to the playoffs, if those four teams, like they normally are in the playoffs, this year Summer Creek will be Division I, Atascocita will be Division II. That's pretty interesting. But as far as teams jumping up from 5A to 6A, what kind of strikes you as seeing a team moving up to 6A or maybe moving down to 5, whichever you want?
Well, let's focus on one area. Barbers Hill and Crosby High Schools were listed among those assigned to Class 6A in the state's top division. The enrollment cutoff number of 2,215 for the top classification was much lower than expected for a lot of coaches. Most UIL observers had predicted a cutoff number between 2,235 and maybe 2,250, which would be lower than the 2,274 established for the current district realignment. But based on official attendance, snapshot data released last month, it was already believed that Barbers Hill High School would be entering Class 6A and Goose Creek Memorial would be dropping back down to Class 5A. Now, I did talk to Crosby head coach Joe Willis, who did just step down, by the way. His defensive coordinator, Jabara Williams, will be the head coach for Crosby. Of course, he worked with Joe at Tyler Legacy High School, but now Jabara Williams is the new head coach of Crosby. Joe Willis said he wouldn't be surprised if Crosby and Barbers Hill ended up in the same district. That included Channelview, the Pasadena schools, C.E. King, and North Shore. But again, that is to be determined. But what you may notice out of that is Kingwood High School is not in that mix right there. Could Kingwood possibly go over with maybe the Woodlands, College Park? I certainly think that could happen. I mean, that was the way it was back in the day. But again, the UIL is expected to release its realignment athletic districts the first week of February in 2026. And I think that's the most pressing area because really, if you think about it, we just saw two of the teams from that district being King and also North Shore playing for a state title. And, of course, you mentioned Summer Creek. So that's kind of the hot topic, as far as the Houston area.
Yeah, and another thing I was listening to while we were at state is they're one, Region 3 is all Houston teams in 6A. Mm-hmm. They're wondering if a Houston area, there may be one more Houston area district, which may get bumped down to 4 or another one moved up to Region 2. There may be enough teams in 6A to get yet another district. And speaking about state titles, DeSoto won that state title. Well, they got 5A numbers next year, and this past year, DeSoto said they wanted to opt up to Division I. This year, they're talking about sticking with 5A, but heck, if you win a division title, you might want to stay up at 6A. But having said that, that's if they go down to 5A, it's one less team for 6A Houston teams to have to worry about when they get deep in the rounds there.
Yeah, true. I mean, DeSoto definitely, it's usually why that happens is because they want to be in a district where they can play everybody else they're used to playing. Mm-hmm. So that being the reason. But of course, DeSoto can win at any level, which is what they just proved.
And I don't want to travel as much too. That goes for Houston teams too. It's one thing for a football team to have to travel 5 times to, way out down to the San Antonio or way out to the outskirts or what have you. But it's another thing to make your volleyball teams have to do that too in the middle of the week. Put on 150 miles of travel just because they're in that kind of district. So everybody's going to have their eyes on what happens in February. All the coaches get together because that's when they also dive into, okay, I need a non-district game over here. It's funny seeing Jeff. I'm probably going to have you down there checking that out and seeing the ruckus there and finding out who's playing who and all that kind of stuff. But it'll be fun for sure.
It'll be good. And, for Barboursville volleyball, which you had mentioned, they weren't in the same district with football. So I do think it's important to note that maybe they won't have to go as far into the Golden Triangle as they've had the last couple of years. And that's a tough volleyball area as well.
Absolutely. All right, everybody get ready to take a look at your Christmas leftovers, eat them up, watch your football, watch everything, but we're going to leave you with some rankings here. And since we're done with the football season, we're going to rank the top five games that we thought were the best at state this year. We'll leave you with that, and we'll be back next week. We'll probably be talking about some hoops. So we will see you next week.